I already speak English fluently. And then for Xhosa and Zulu, like, I don't like to speak because it's very bad. Sometimes I even mix the two. It's horrible. But I can have a conversation, like you can speak, like full on Xhosa, full on Zulu, but I'm just not going to be able to respond, just for my own sanity, because yeah. What else? I can speak a little bit of Shangani, right? I can actually speak more Shangani than I can speak Zulu and Xhosa, which is very weird. But yeah. Chidimma's legal.
Today's story focuses on the ongoing legal debate surrounding former Miss Universe Nigeria, Chidimma Adetshina. Immigration lawyer Craig Smith has weighed in on the controversy, explaining his interpretation of South African immigration and citizenship laws. According to Smith, because Chidimma's mother's South African citizenship was revoked, Chidimma can no longer rely on that citizenship status. He also argues that she is not entitled to remain in South Africa because she does not currently hold a valid immigration status. However, it is important to note that these are Craig Smith's legal opinions. Any final determination about Chidimma Adetshina's citizenship or immigration status rests with the relevant South African authorities and, where applicable, the courts. Let's break down exactly what was said. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.
Right now, the ongoing legal drama surrounding a former Miss Universe Nigeria, Chidimma Adetshina, remains in the spotlight as the Cape Town Regional Court reversed judgment on her potential deportation. This is following her arrest after re-entering South Africa. Home Affairs argues that she remains undocumented, prohibited person, while her legal team is fighting to have her status overturned. This case brings into sharp focus South Africa's complex citizenship and immigration laws, particularly changes introduced under the Citizenship Amendment Act of 2010. To break down the legal nuances, rights of second-generation residents, and the process of status review, we're joined by immigration lawyer Craig Smith. Craig, thank you very much for your time. I mean, okay, so for the viewers who've just been hearing the headlines in the past couple of days, what is the current status of Chidimma Adetshina's case before the Cape Town court?
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me. There are effectively two pieces of legislation in issue here. One is citizenship and the other one is the Immigration Act. Insofar as citizenship is concerned, Ms. Chidimma got her citizenship through her mother, who acquired her citizenship fraudulently. That's according to the department, and it appears on the facts it's probably a correct deduction. Following that, Ms. Chidimma's citizenship was revoked, and correctly so. And now, having made that decision by the department, she is entitled to review that decision. So effectively, that is before the High Court in the Western Cape. I don't really see an out in this regard. I can't see how they're going to succeed in turning that decision around because it was predicated on fraud. Then you have the Immigration Act. So as a result of Ms. Chidimma having a fraudulent identification document, which would have been part and parcel of her Citizenship Act, Home Affairs declared her a prohibited person, which means that you are disqualified from any visa status in South Africa. That includes a visitor's visa, and on the facts, as far as I'm aware, she then entered the border through Mozambique into South Africa on a visitor's visa, which of course she's disqualified from having. She was then located and found in South Africa with her son, and she was arrested for the purposes of detention or detained for the purposes of deportation. She was released, and now the matter is before the magistrate's court insofar as a deportation. The issue, though, is that the magistrate's court has no power to issue a deportation order, and this has become the subject of a legal dispute. But the reality is the Act does not entitle a magistrate to issue an order of deportation.
Oh, dear. Craig, Talk to us about whether she can indeed claim citizenship by birth, because what we do know is that she was born here, and also because this act was enforced after her birth.
Well, actually, the Citizenship Act came into place initially in 1949, and then it was consolidated as a Citizenship Act in 1995. Ms. Chidimma would be subject to the citizenship and or any amendments thereafter. It doesn't really make a material difference. The reality is she claims she was born in South Africa, in Soweto, and following that, together with the fact that her mother is a South African citizen, of course, that was the fraud. On the face of it, she claimed citizenship. And obviously, with the mother's citizenship being revoked, hers was also revoked. So she is no longer a citizen by birth, and that matter is before the High Court. She has, in fact, as I understand on the papers, attempt to argue that she's also entitled to citizenship by naturalization, by being in South Africa as a minor person through to 18, but I don't believe that's going to cut it. So she claimed she initially got her citizenship through birth. It was then determined that it was acquired fraudulently through her mother, and then her South African citizenship by birth was revoked, and now that is before the High Court.
All right. Now, I mean, given what you've explained, her mother's citizenship was revoked. Hers was then also subsequently revoked because it was acquired fraudulently. On what grounds, then, is her legal defense arguing that she should not be deported or held in custody?
Well, she's no longer held in custody. They released her, and it's probably because she has a 3-year-old son in South Africa, and that would be rather unconscionable to detain her, and obviously because there's a child. And of course, Home Affairs are not obliged to detain. It's discretionary. So that's fair, not to detain her. Insofar as the current deportation is concerned, that is a situation now that needs to be determined as to whether she should remain here, because look, she's disqualified from any form of visa, so she has no right to be here. So there's no claim. Just coming back to your original point about citizenship and how she can claim that is to say she's here as a minor all the way through to a major, but that, in my view, before the High Court is going to fail.
And what's the fundamental distinction under the South African law between then being a naturalized citizen and a legal permanent resident and an illegal or foreign national?
Okay, well, look, if you are born to a South African citizen, or in South Africa, or you're born abroad, or you naturalize, those are the three paths to citizenship. That's all under the Citizenship Act. What they're now claiming is a form of naturalization for Ms. Chidimma, which I don't believe is going to cut it. I don't think that's going to succeed. Then you have the Immigration Act, and all persons, when you're dealing with foreign persons, are obliged to have a status when they enter the country, remain in the country. You have to have a valid status. Now, if you are found with a fraudulent or revoked now identification document, you no longer have the right to a visa. That is that's as a prohibited person. So now in South Africa, technically, when she entered the country, she entered without a status. And obviously being located under the Immigration Act, she has the right through the department in terms of Section 34 to arrest, detain, and deport. They have stayed the arrest, so they've released her and her child from detention. The issue now is whether she should be deported based on whether she has a valid status in the country. And I don't believe she has a valid status, as that's very difficult to argue. Sadly, the matter's become quite convoluted because the magistrate is now unsure whether she can issue a notice of deportation, which in my view she can't. So that is a process that must happen internally through the Department of Home Affairs if she wants to contest her deportation. And then even if that's refused, she can still take that decision on the part of the Director General or Minister to the High Court to challenge the decision. So she has a multiple of remedies. But as it stands, she doesn't have a valid status. And I would find it quite difficult for her to overcome a deportation.
True. It is, in fact, convoluted, as you said, Craig. So she's essentially trying to separate herself from her mother, who was in the country illegally, now we know. Can she do that? First, can she separate herself from her mother, arguing that she was born in the country? But also what happens to her son, her 3-year-old son? Because presumably the son was also born in South Africa. He may also claim citizenship.
Well, the minute you have a minor child in the mix, you start dealing with the Children's Act, you start dealing with the rights of children, Section 28 of the Constitution, not to be separated from the mother. This is largely a matter that this is the reason why she wasn't detained or released. I mean, that would be unconstitutional, certainly for a minor child. Remember, a minor child has no legal capacity and wouldn't know what's right or wrong. The reality is she perhaps was too opportunistic in trying to return to South Africa after being declared a prohibited person in 2024. I do believe that there was a solution. She could easily have challenged the decision to declare her a prohibited person. And I think that would have had some merit based on the fact that she would argue that she got her citizenship through being a minor and was not aware of it. And therefore, having been declared a prohibited person, they could lift that. Following that, she could have, which she did apparently, get a Nigerian passport, which she's entitled to. And that's also going to be a problem for her own citizenship claim or review in the court because she aligned herself to Nigeria in the Miss Universe contest. But there would have been visa options for her to avail herself of when she was back in Nigeria with a Nigerian passport, including her son, where she could have applied for a visa that, for argument's sake, there's a visa category for those in film production, modeling, etc. And I'm assuming that she would have a pretty bright career in the modeling industry, and she could have acquired a three-year visa had she first contested her prohibited status, but I think she got a bit ahead of herself. That may be a problem for her.
Craig, talk to us about how then the South African law navigates the doctrine of statelessness, right? Particularly when an individual's birth citizenship in one country is invalidated while their ties to another nation are disputed.
Well, statelessness often comes, to protect especially minor children. And that is if you found yourself in the country and you have no ties to another country, you have no other nationality that you can present to the department. If that's the case, and you have no other nationality protecting you, then you can claim you're stateless. And now that's not the case because, of course, Ms. Chidimma took her Nigerian passport, represented Nigeria in Miss Universe. So there's no ways statelessness could come to her benefit or that of the child. But statelessness is more about minor children and protecting minor children where they have no other nationality to claim. And that's when South Africa would step in and probably be obliged to give South African citizenship.
Citizenship law can be highly complex. Legal experts point out that questions may include: was citizenship automatically acquired at birth? Can a parent's revoked citizenship automatically affect a child's status? What procedural rights apply before citizenship is withdrawn? Does the individual have a right to appeal or challenge administrative decisions? These issues often require careful legal interpretation and, in some cases, court decisions. That is why different legal experts may hold different opinions until the matter is finally resolved. The Department of Home Affairs is responsible for managing citizenship records, processing immigration matters, investigating fraudulent documentation, enforcing immigration legislation. If disputes arise, affected individuals may seek internal reviews or challenge decisions through the courts. Ultimately, official government decisions, not public commentary, determine a person's legal status. Craig Smith's comments have added another chapter to one of South Africa's most closely watched citizenship debates. While his legal analysis has sparked widespread discussion, the final outcome depends on official decisions by the Department of Home Affairs and, if necessary, the courts. As always, News with Innocent will continue following this story and provide updates as official information becomes available. What are your thoughts on this issue? Share your respectful opinion in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more South African breaking